Armenia is one of the world's oldest countries, with a history that goes back thousands of years. It sits in the southern Caucasus region, between Europe and Asia, surrounded by mountains and valleys. Over time, Armenia has been influenced by many great empires: Persian, Roman, Byzantine, Arab, Ottoman, and Russian. But through all of this, the Armenian people have kept their own culture, language, and identity. The story of Armenia is one of survival, faith, and endurance. Armenia's history begins in prehistoric times. Archaeologists have found evidence that people lived in the Armenian highlands as early as the Stone Age. These early settlers built homes, made tools, and began farming the land. The fertile valleys and mountain slopes provided a good environment for agriculture and trade. Over time, the people in this region developed organized societies and eventually formed kingdoms. The first known Armenian state was the Kingdom of Urartu, which existed from around 860 to 590 BCE. Urartu was centered around Lake Van, in what is now eastern Turkey. It was a powerful and well-organized kingdom that built strong fortresses, created advanced irrigation systems, and left behind inscriptions written in cuneiform script. Urartu often fought wars with its neighbor, the Assyrian Empire, but it also traded and shared culture with other ancient civilizations. When Urartu fell, likely due to invasions and internal problems, new peoples took over its lands, among them the ancestors of the Armenians. After the fall of Urartu, the Indo-European-speaking Armenians gradually became the dominant population of the region. They mixed with local peoples and developed their own distinct language and traditions. This period laid the foundations for what would become the Armenian nation. The first Armenian dynasties appeared during the time of the Persian Achaemenid Empire. Armenia was often under Persian influence, but managed to maintain a degree of independence. In 331 BCE, when Alexander the Great defeated Persia, Armenia briefly came under Greek influence as part of the Hellenistic world. However, Armenians soon re-established their own rule. The most famous ancient Armenian dynasty was the Artaxiad dynasty, founded by King Artaxias III in 189 BCE. Under this dynasty, Armenia grew stronger and more united. The greatest of the Artaxiad kings was Tigranes the Great, who ruled from 95 to 55 BCE. Under Tigranes, Armenia became a powerful empire stretching from the Mediterranean Sea to the Caspian Sea. For a short time, it was one of the strongest kingdoms in the region, rivaling both Rome and Parthia. Tigranes built cities, encouraged trade, and developed Armenian culture. However, after conflicts with Rome, Armenia lost much of its territory and influence. One of the most important moments in Armenian history came in the early 4th century. Around the year 301 CE, King Tigranes III made Armenia the first nation in the world to officially adopt Christianity as its state religion. This was thanks to the work of Saint Gregory the Illuminator, who converted the king and helped spread the Christian faith throughout the land. This decision became a defining part of Armenian identity and remains one of the proudest moments in the nation's history. A little over 100 years later, in 405 CE, Mesrop Mashtots, a scholar and monk, created the Armenian alphabet. This was a revolutionary achievement. It allowed Armenians to translate the Bible and other religious and scientific texts into their own language. It also helped preserve Armenian culture and history through writing. The invention of the alphabet started what is often called Armenia's Golden Age, a time of learning, literature, and spiritual growth. During this time, Armenia was often caught between two great powers: the Byzantine Empire to the west and the Persian Empire to the east. These empires fought over control of Armenia, dividing its territory and influencing its politics. Yet, even though Armenia lost its independence at times, it managed to keep its unique culture and Christian faith. In the 7th century, Arab armies of the Islamic Caliphate conquered most of the Middle East, including Armenia. The Arabs ruled Armenia for several centuries, but they allowed Armenian nobles some freedom in exchange for taxes and loyalty. During this time, the Armenian Church remained active, and the people continued to preserve their language and traditions. In the 9th century, Armenian nobles of the Bagratuni family managed to restore an independent Armenian kingdom. The Bagratid Kingdom of Armenia, founded in 885 CE, brought a new era of peace and prosperity. Its capital, Ani, became one of the most beautiful and advanced cities of the medieval world, famous for its churches, palaces, and bridges. Ani was often called the City of 1001 Churches. Trade flourished, and Armenian art and architecture reached great heights. However, this golden period did not last forever. In 1045, the Byzantine Empire conquered Ani, and soon after, the Seljuk Turks invaded the region. The arrival of the Seljuks changed the balance of power in the Middle East and forced many Armenians to flee westward. After the Seljuk invasions, many Armenians settled in Cilicia, a region on the Mediterranean coast in what is now southern Turkey. There they established a new state called the Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia around 1080. This kingdom lasted for nearly 300 years. It became an important ally of the Crusaders and a bridge between Europe and the Middle East. Cilician Armenia developed strong political and cultural ties with European countries, especially France. Its kings adopted European customs and titles, and its cities became centers of trade and diplomacy. Cilician Armenia was also a place of refuge for many Armenians who had lost their homes in the highlands. It became a symbol of Armenian resilience and adaptability. However, in 1375, the kingdom fell to the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. After that, Armenia no longer had an independent kingdom for many centuries. From the 15th century onward, Armenia was divided and ruled by foreign powers. The western part came under the control of the Ottoman Empire, while the eastern part was ruled by Persia, Iran. These centuries were very hard for the Armenian people. They suffered from wars, heavy taxes, and forced conversions. Despite this, Armenian merchants, craftsmen, and church leaders managed to keep their communities alive. The Armenian Church, with its spiritual center at Echmiadzin, played a key role in preserving national identity. In the early 19th century, after several wars between Russia and Persia, the eastern part of Armenia was annexed by the Russian Empire through the Treaty of Turkmenchay in 1828. Under Russian rule, Armenians gained more security and economic opportunity compared to life under the Ottomans or Persians. Cities like Yerevan and Tbilisi grew, and Armenian schools, newspapers, and cultural organizations flourished. However, Western Armenians under Ottoman rule continued to suffer discrimination and violence. The worst tragedy in Armenian history occurred during World War I in 1915. The Ottoman government carried out a systematic campaign to deport and kill Armenians living in the empire. Men were executed, women and children were sent on death marches through the desert, and entire villages were destroyed. Around 1.5 million Armenians were killed in what is now recognized by many countries as the Armenian Genocide. This event destroyed much of Western Armenia's population and scattered survivors around the world, creating a large Armenian diaspora. After the Russian Empire collapsed during the Russian Revolution of 1917, Armenians in the Caucasus took the opportunity to declare independence. On May 28, 1918, they established the First Republic of Armenia. It was a small state with limited resources, and it faced immediate challenges such as famine, disease, and war. Despite these difficulties, the young republic managed to survive for 2 years and laid the foundations of modern Armenian government and education. In 1920, Armenia was invaded by both Turkish and Bolshevik forces. The republic was overthrown, and Armenia became part of the Soviet Union as the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic. Under Soviet rule, Armenia experienced both progress and repression. The Soviets built industries, roads, and schools, and literacy rates rose sharply. Yerevan, the capital, became a modern city. However, religion was suppressed, political freedoms were limited, and many Armenians were sent to labor camps during Stalin's purges. During World War II, thousands of Armenians fought bravely in the Soviet army. After the war, Soviet Armenia continued to develop industrially and culturally. Many Armenians from the diaspora were encouraged to return and rebuild their homeland. Although life under the Soviet Union was tightly controlled, Armenia preserved its culture, language, and national pride. When the Soviet Union began to collapse in the late 1980s, nationalist movements grew stronger in Armenia. On September 21, 1991, Armenians voted overwhelmingly for independence in a national referendum. The modern Republic of Armenia was born, and independence was officially declared. However, the new nation soon faced great challenges. One of the biggest challenges was the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Nagorno-Karabakh is a region with a majority Armenian population, but located within the borders of Azerbaijan. In the late 1980s, Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh demanded to join Armenia, leading to a war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The war lasted until 1994, leaving tens of thousands dead and many more displaced. Armenia and the ethnic Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh gained control of the region, but the conflict remained unresolved for decades. Renewed fighting in 2020 and 2023 led to new losses for Armenia and a painful humanitarian crisis. Despite these hardships, modern Armenia has built a democratic system and a growing economy. Its capital, Yerevan, is one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities, with a history stretching back almost 3,000 years. Armenia has a vibrant culture, famous for its music, art, and cuisine. The Armenian diaspora, communities of Armenians living abroad in places like the United States, France, Russia, and Lebanon, plays an important role in supporting the homeland through business, education, and charity. Today, Armenia is a small but proud nation that continues to face challenges such as economic development, political reform, and regional security. It remains closely tied to its neighbors, especially Russia and Iran, but also seeks partnerships with Europe and the West. The Armenian Church still holds a special place in national life, and the country celebrates its ancient Christian heritage. Tourism is growing, as people from around the world visit Armenia's mountain landscapes, ancient monasteries, and historic sites like Garni Temple, Geghard Monastery, and the ruins of Ani. Armenia's long history is a story of faith and endurance. Through empires, invasions, and tragedies, the Armenian people have managed to keep their language, culture, and identity alive. From the first Christian kingdom to the modern republic, Armenia stands as a symbol of survival and continuity, a small nation with a vast and unbroken past.